What is going on, everybody? Welcome into a new episode of the J-Rock Show. I'm your host, Jason J.K. Candell, taking you through what went on this week on the SimWorld Hoops slate, because plenty have happened. Plenty has been nice and enjoyable. I'm back in New York now. I'm home for the holidays. I'm wishing all of you a happy holidays as well. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Last night, number 8 Texas faced number 18 Tennessee. On second thought, I don't understand how this team is still ranked. They are not a top 25 team, and they are not playing like one. And they surely did not play like one last night. 82-67 loss to the Texas Longhorns, who have now won 7 in a row and are sitting at 11-3. 23 points from Lionel Burgos, 5 of 5 from deep. Kudos to the young man. 32 combined from Devontae Claudio and Arthur Lattimore. Texas out-rebounded Tennessee 43-32. But Henrik Vekic, a bad season as the Robin to Trey Turner's Batman, gets even worse. 15 points. Might look good on the surface, but 0 of 7 from the free throw line. Could have had 22 left points on the board. Can't do that in a game against one of the best teams in the country, at home no less. And to put a cherry on top of that, he hired Shaquille O'Neal to be his free throw shooting coach. A historically bad free throw shooter. I love Shaq. I love him. I think he's great on inside the SWBA. I think that he's a great player and a great personality. But free throw shooting, there's a reason why this is getting backlash from people across SimWorld Hoops, because it's like asking Ben Simmons to be your three-point shooting coach. What does this really do? It's someone who has the experience to be able to help you, but what else? Very controversial decision there from Henrik Vekic. Vincent Magic, 8-7. This kid just continues to impress me on the floor every single night. Even when he's shooting poorly, the way he just controls this offense and helps them play with so much cohesion is so much fun to watch. So I've really been enjoying that. But let's go to Sin City to recap what happened on Wednesday night between UNLV and number 6 Arkansas. Arkansas was in the midst of a 6-game win streak headed into Wednesday night, I should say, facing UNLV, who had a lot to prove. They're a tough out, and they're going to be a tough out all season. But double overtime thriller, 102-100 victory for UNLV. 49 points, season high, career high for junior forward Nat Hawkins. 11 rebounds for Hawkins as well. He was near the late first round, early second round in SWBA big boards and mock drafts. His draft stock soared, I should say. He's getting lottery consideration now. He's getting top 20 consideration. Nat Hawkins showcased everything inside. They couldn't stop him. Whenever they needed a bucket, nobody else was consistent enough outside of him and Jarrell Beauchamp. And Nat Hawkins iced the game at the line. He was everywhere when they needed it. And Arkansas, a very guard-heavy team, didn't really have an answer for a guy who is so mobile. He very well could be a guard. 49 points. He looked poised. He looked great. And then Jarrell Beauchamp, 20-8 for him in the matchup with DJ Wagner. Wagner, 36-point season high. But Arkansas, it was a lot of unforced errors, untimely mistakes. I was on the broadcast for this one with Coach Drayton, and it was electric. I was talking to my good friend Zach Nichols, who wrote that story for The Athletic yesterday, and he was telling me that the Arkansas big man duo of Jomo Graham and Rawlings Durrett Castor looked great, especially with Keontae Smythe in foul trouble all night. But Jomo Graham wound up fouling out, and RDC had a really strong game, 4 blocks, double-digit points, 16 rebounds for Jomo Graham. But Arkansas lost this game because of Norvell DeJohn Jones, had some bad turnovers, had some costly missed free throws, and he's a good player. He's a good kid. But stop focusing on your dating life, man, and get in the gym, focus on those free throws, and you got bigger and better things to work on than which girl you're hanging out with that night. We're not Rick Blaze up in here. But moving on, Miami loses again to Villanova 97-77. And without Kevon Jackson, this team's just going off the rails. Don't really know how they went from champs to a team that doesn't deserve to be ranked and honestly isn't very deserving of a berth in Hoopsteria. They're bad. Really bad. Jermaine McElmore doesn't look as good. Outside of Dominic Bianco, this team is very, very okay. And it's Miami. They won the chip last year. We were talking about them as being a juggernaut, a super team, and now they're just mediocre. Where did things go wrong? Because the Hurricanes, Jim Larinaga is known to be a phenomenal head coach, but it's getting harder and harder to defend him because this team has the hubris, has the confidence, and he's not keeping them in check. They're 3-6, 1-4 in their last 5. What's going on down in Coral Gables? Because that championship definitely went to their head. They definitely stopped caring as much. And you're seeing the guys that have the heart, like the Dominic Biancos, and the guys that don't, like the Jermaine McElmores. Kentucky lost 2 games in a row this week. That strings back into last week. They lost to Louisville at Rupp, and then they lost to Texas. They got the brakes beaten off of them by Texas. Jamison Johnson has been in the midst of quite the slump. Had 10 points against the Longhorns, 9 points against the Cardinals, both ranked losses, so nothing to be worried about with them. They snapped their 2-game losing streak against the Virginia Cavaliers last night, but Kentucky, you were 10-0, now you're 11-3, same record as Texas. I don't think they deserve to be ahead of Texas in these upcoming SP Top 25 rankings because you have the same record and they have that head-to-head win. I think Texas is a top 2 team in the country. Texas and Duke are light years above every other team in the country. And I think that's very, very apparent right now. Kentucky beat Virginia last night in Charlottesville. Big win to keep momentum on the side of the Wildcats. But there's still a ways to go. Losing 2 of their last 3, not what you want to see if you're Mark Pope. You won a national championship with this team, and they definitely don't look like they're playing with that same edge over the last week of the season that they started the first month of the season with. However, on tonight's slate, Auburn and Wake Forest in Winston-Salem, and Gonzaga UCLA. We will be seated for that. Jalen Snow, Caden Shipp, Damian Luffy. No shortage of star power on the floor in Westwood tonight. Pauley Pavilion's going to get loud for that one. Jalen Snow is one of the best players in the country. But UCLA has not lived up to expectations this year. Gonzaga has been phenomenal. So I have to give credit where it's due. But UCLA's got to right the ship right now because a lot of inconsistencies outside of Jalen Snow. They're 5-4. They're 3-2 in their last 5. While Gonzaga's 7-2. Yeah, they've dropped a couple lately, but they're fresh off a win. Both teams are fresh off a win. And these West Coast foes are going to go at it. We know what happened in the Jalen Suggs game. We know what happened in the Julian Strother game. These teams do not like each other. There's going to be a lot of animosity on that floor tonight, and I'm excited to see it. Returning to Kentucky, Jamison Johnson, 24 points, forced 8 turnovers on Johnny Baldwin. Kentucky looks like they're back, but I need to see a little bit more before I know that they're back. Iowa State, Syracuse tonight. Alabama, Wichita State. DJ Childs taking the floor. But extending into early next week, the games that you got to tune into: Tennessee, Florida State, Duke, Temple, Texas A&M, UCLA. That's a good one. Michigan, USC, Gabe Pope, Lorenzo Phenom, big shot Samuel Bogus, Texas Tech, UNLV, who's fresh off of that Hawkins masterclass performance. Their 4th straight home game to open the season. The homestand for the Rebels. This team is a very, very tough out. They're well coached. They have a lot of talent, and they're a team that's going to give you a fight for all 40 minutes, and Arkansas learned that. I'm very seated for that Oklahoma-Rutgers game. coming up on Wednesday night, though, but on SimWorld TV. But Suno Chapa, Dylan Harper, two of the most fun freshmen in the country, going at it. Was supposed to have Suno Chapa on this episode, actually, but some technical difficulties prevented that from happening. But it's been a very action-packed slate of SimWorld U basketball. Louisville, Iowa was a big game last night as well. That's how we're going to cap off this episode, because the Cardinals, have looked great lately. But Lamarian Sherwood is a very different beast. You can keep Jamison Johnson in check. Lamarian Sherwood is, I know we call Cooper Flagg this, but he's a cyborg. And I like this Louisville team. I like this Louisville team a lot. I really like the backcourt of Pooh Lewis and Kadarius Loftus. I think it's one of the most dangerous, underrated backcourts in all of SimWorld U that people aren't talking about, despite them beating Kentucky in Lexington in an in-state rivalry game. That's going to be the biggest game for momentum of the entire season. Facing Iowa, Louisville had a lot to prove to people. Iowa's been great this season. 2 top 10 teams meeting in Iowa City. But Louisville needs to just keep their foot on the gas. DeMarco Graham can go toe-to-toe with these elite big men, but we saw it with Jamison Johnson. We saw it against KP Mack. But Louisville hasn't even reached their ceiling yet. They're number 10 in the country, and I think they're more like a top 7 team, and they won 6 games last year. They were vying to tie their season win total from 2023 last night against Iowa. This is a testament to how quickly things have turned around from the Kenny Payne era to the Pat Kelsey era. Coming in from Charleston, Pat Kelsey has been nothing short of electric with this Louisville team. He's got the fans back into it for the first time since the Pitino era, back in the early middle of the 2010s, and that vacated national championship team. Shout out Coach Skinny, because I know that his voodoo's working overtime right now. Iowa took the win 99-96. Lamarian Sherwood 28-6-6. DeMarco Graham 15. A lot of 5 guys in double figures, all with 15 or more for Louisville. But really strong second half from the Hawkeyes, and their depth spurred them to a victory at home. Louisville still 5-3. These are both top 15 teams in the country. I don't think they should deserve to move down very much because of a 3-point loss on the road to a team that's higher ranked than them. They still beat Kentucky. They still beat Memphis, and Memphis is surely to go down. They lost to Colorado. They lost to Louisville, and they should be near the bottom of the top 25. We know Miami's not there anymore. Tennessee doesn't deserve to be there. But that's going to do it for this episode of the J-Rock Show. I'm Jason J.K. Candell. Happy Thanksgiving. See you all next week.